The Tesla violence, have you heard anything about billionaires on the left, whether it's Soros or somebody else? Have you heard anything about planning, coordination, funding for these attacks?
I believe that that is part of it. Yeah, there are some of them that were involved with my trials that were, I think, probably involved with that also. And, you know, Elon's done a very good job. He's found tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse, like levels you've never seen. People that don't show up to work and they get checks. I mean, so many different things that you can't even go over it. Is so much. Done a great job. And he's basically a patriot. You know, he's in business, and I've gotten to know him primarily through the campaign. He endorsed me. I appreciated it. But I didn't know him very well before that, hardly at all. And he's essentially a patriot. He's a wonderful patriot. He loves the country. But he has never asked me, think of this, and he's got plenty of right to, I guess. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it. I probably won't.
No favors?
But he's never asked me for a favor. Not one time has he said, you know, as an example, I just got rid of the electric car mandate. You're actually allowed to go out and buy a gasoline-driven car or a hybrid or whatever you want, or electric. And he never came to me and said, could you do me a favor? Don't do that. You know, he's a legitimate guy. And he's doing this because it's for the good of the country. And we are finding hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud.
So with that in mind, and we love what he's doing, I heard him say to he said to Ted Cruz last week, I think, that in 5 years, computers are going to be driving cars for us, like 50 to 90% of the cars. In 10 years, robots will be doing virtually everything for us. It seems like he might be an additional duty or instead of, like that is going to totally throw society kind of for a loop.
It'll be different.
It's exciting, but should he be the guy preparing everybody for this AI revolution?
Well, it's a little scary. It's a revolution, and everybody with money is in AI. They all want to go in AI, and we'll find out. We'll speak in 2 years. We'll let you know about it. But it's a little bit scary when you see what it can do. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing, but it's a little scary. It's a tremendous business that, in order to remain number one, we're number one right now, a long way in front of China, but China's trying to catch up. We need tremendous electricity and power, and we're going to supply that power. It's going to be a very big industry.
I know the conversations are ongoing, but and you can't say everything. You don't want to say everything probably about diplomacy, but we're hearing that maybe Russia is dragging its feet at this point. And Zelensky has shown some openness, especially after what happened in the Oval Office a few weeks ago. Is that accurate at this point?
I don't know. I mean, I'll let you know at a certain point, but I think that Russia wants to see an end to it, but it could be they're dragging their feet. I've done it over the years. You know, I don't want to sign a contract. I want to sort of stay in the game, but maybe I don't want to do it quite. I'm not sure. But no, I think Russia would like to see it end, and I think Zelensky would like to see it end at this point. We had a case last week where Ukrainian soldiers were surrounded by Russian soldiers, and this was not good. And I think I had a big impact on not having all of them killed, but they were killed. It's a bloody war. You know, they lose 2,500 people on average a week. Think of that, 2,500. They're not Americans, but it doesn't matter to me from that standpoint. They're Russians and Ukrainians, and they're killing each other at levels that, you know, you just don't see. There's been nothing like it since the Second World War. It's almost like I see the pictures of the battlefields. I'd rather not even see them, where you have arms and legs and heads all over the field. The weaponry is ridiculous. It's a big drone deal now. You know, drones are taking over the world. And I just want to see it stop. I also don't want to pay. You know, Biden paid $350 billion. Europe paid $100 billion. And I said, why didn't they equalize? Why were we so far ahead of Europe? Then I found out that Europe, as you know, took loans. In other words, they gave it in the form of loans. We didn't. But I was able to make a deal for rare earth, which will be good. At least we don't feel so stupid. But we had $350 billion, and so we're $250 billion more than Europe. Isn't it ridiculous? And we had a man in office who was grossly incompetent, and I hate to say it, but he was grossly incompetent. And now I'm learning a lot more than I learned then. You know, now I'm seeing some of the things they did, some of the fraud Look at billions of dollars going to environmental groups that, you know what that money's for. That money's not for environment. It's so incredible when I'm looking at what's happened to our country, allowing open borders where millions of people have come into our country, millions and millions of people, 21 million people, of which a number of millions of people are stone cold bad actors from jails, from prisons, and from mental institutions. I always say from insane asylums, which is a mental institution on steroids, from gangs and the gangs in the streets of Venezuela and many other places, not just South America. And when you think that a man would allow these people to come into our country, murderers, we had 11,088 murderers, people that many killed more than one person. These people are in our country, but we're getting them out. And by the way, we have the best border numbers we've had, I would say, since mine, but literally it's soon going to be better than even I had in the first term. And it was not easy. The people are doing a great job.
You know, a couple of things more, if you don't mind. You're such a positive person, and I love it. You even acknowledge that there will be disturbances with the tariffs. There will be disturbances. Question is, how bad could those disturbances be, and how far are you willing to go when it comes to April 2nd? I know there are some exceptions, and it's an ongoing discussion, but...
Not too many. Not too many exceptions. No, I don't want to have too many exceptions.
Yeah.
Look, we've been ripped off for 45 years by other countries, 50 years more. We always were soft and weak. It's almost like we had people that didn't know what they were doing. We were just ripped as a country like nobody has ever seen before. That's why we owe $36 trillion in debt. And it's time that we get some of that money back, maybe a lot of that money back. And this had to be done. We couldn't let this continue. And, you know, it's friend and foe, but oftentimes so-called friends were worse than the foes. You take a look at the European Union, what they did to this country, the way they took it to the cleaners, and China, you know about. And I had a tremendously successful first term. We had the highest increase for stock market in the history of our country, 88%, went up 88%. NASDAQ went up some enormous number. We had the best numbers in the history of our country, and yet we were ripped off by so many of these nations, and it was so sad to watch it. And frankly, had COVID not come along, because that was another thing, we had to fix it. It was very destructive to the whole world, but we had to fix it. And yet I handed back the reins of a country that was better. Think of it. The stock market was higher than it was just prior to COVID coming in. We had an amazing period of time. We rebuilt the military, biggest tax cuts in history, biggest regulation cuts in history. And now we're doing it again. But I think we're going to do it even better. And we have unbelievable people. Our economic people are the best in the world. Even now, you were here a little while ago, we just approved a lot of ambassadors going into other nations, et cetera, and they're great. They're just great people. I think we're going to have a tremendous success. I know some people say, oh, do you think it's too much? Well, they've been doing this to us for many years, whether it's China or India or Brazil or so many other places. And all we're going to do, it's reciprocal. We're just going to be reciprocal. In fact, I'll probably be more lenient than reciprocal, because if I was reciprocal, that would be very tough for people. But we've been ripped off as a country like no country has ever been ripped off before. I read some of these deals that are made by my predecessors, and it's almost like saying, how could anybody allow this to happen? Like, as an example, who would allow men to play in women's sports? Who would allow transgender for everybody? Who would allow open borders where, as soon as I heard that, I said, if they're serious about open borders, every jail all over the world is going to be emptied out into our country. And that's what happened. We're getting them out now. You wonder, who would allow this? Are they stupid, or do they truly hate our country?
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.